Kylo Ren was kind of a weird character in the sequel trilogy. He was like this whiny guy who inherited Darth Vader's legacy.
87 may have helped in the escape.
But honestly, he looked cool. I mean, the costume. The crossguard lightsaber was pretty sweet too, and he clearly needed expansion, something that he's recently been getting in the Legacy of Vader comics, though back in 2019 as a tie-in to The Rise of Skywalker, Kylo Ren finally got his time in the sun with this comic book, Star Wars The Rise of Kylo Ren. The book was written by Charles Soule, a Lucasfilm regular, having written 2 of the High Republic novels, along with numerous comics covering characters like Poe Dameron, Lando Calrissian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Vader. Will Sliney drew this comic and has been working on Star Wars stuff since before the Disney acquisition, working on some magazines with Titan back in the day, on short comic stories before moving to work on Star Wars comics across numerous series. For what it's worth, both creatives seem to know what they were up to when crafting the mini-series expanding Kylo Ren's rise into a Knight of Ren, as well as his fall to the dark side. The story of The Rise of Kylo Ren takes place across 4 issues, also called chapters. The book starts on an introduction with a man called Ren, who's in charge of a group of marauders known as the Knights of Ren, a group formed before the fall of the Empire. Anyhow, Ben Solo, or Kylo Ren, has just destroyed the Jedi Temple on Ossus, with the surviving Jedi, Hennix, Ty, and Vo, confronting him. After a scuffle, Ben leaves, getting away after injuring one of the Jedi. Ben is really stewing with anger after Luke attempted to assassinate him, a scene we saw in The Last Jedi, and despite his uncle's half-assed walking it back, he's mad and it led to the destruction of the temple. Anyhow, the 3 Jedi follow Solo as he makes it off, the group hoping to find out what happened to Ben before bringing in others to confront him as well. Later, Ben is talking to Snoke, who encourages him to join the Knights of Ren and start his path to the dark side. This preceding a flashback showing the first time Ben met the Knights of Ren while on a mission with his former Jedi Master, Luke Skywalker. Skywalker bests the Knights, but the leader Ren senses the dark side in Ben and offers him a path into the Knights of Ren if he ever wants to explore that path. Cutting back to the present, and Ben heads there, finding Ren's mask and putting it on, leading him to the coordinates of Ren. Ben is welcomed into the Knights of Ren, but first needs to get a kill, which is when Ben recounts when he killed a Jedi. This takes us back a bit in the story, describing a battle with Vo, Hennix, and Ty, a battle that left Ben beaten during the meeting with the Knights of Ren, though Vo and Ty continue to pursue him despite the death of Hennix. Following Ben on his first mission with the Knights, locating a relic on one of the moons of Mumban, the Jedi show up and Ty fights Ben as Vo fights Ren. Ty almost gets through to Ben, who is fighting the dark side, but Ren takes him out as Vo kind of scurries off and Ben and Ren get into a fight themselves, Ben killing the older man, then killing Vo as well, since he fully embraced the dark side at this time with Ren's killing. The Knights of Ren fall under Ben's control, and the comic concludes on him constructing his red lightsaber and taking up the new name of Kylo Ren. Ben Solo is the lead of this book, and we kind of start getting insight onto why Ben Solo broke bad and became Kylo Ren, which I think is a kind of a good idea. We never really learned a ton about his origin in the films. I think part of the problem is we see Ben rise into Kylo Ren officially, but what we really lacked is a cohesive understanding of why the dark side is in him. What happened? Was it always in him? I mean, we know Luke tried killing him, but before that, when Ben first meets Ren, Ren tells him he's strong on the dark side, but why is that? Is it simply hereditary because Anakin's his grandfather? I think it would have been cool to see his Jedi career a bit and see where the foundation of him going dark came from. However, with that being said, I found the subplot with the Jedi Vo, Ty, and Hendrix kind of interesting. I think it could have been more interesting if we knew more about them, though, and their relationship with Kylo Ren. Ty, for example, is said to be one of Ben's good friends, something we see on like a single page. This almost feels like something that needs a show, lore novel, or ongoing comic to really fill in the gaps. There's clearly so much going unsaid in this book about Kylo's fall to the dark side. There are many moments of Kylo Ren explaining that his family name and what his family did really caused him to be put in an outrageous standard, complaining that Luke was elevating him as this grand Jedi in the making due to his lineage, as Snoke said the same thing about him as the heir to Darth Vader, with him seeing the Ren as his own path to kind of move forward. That aspect, at least, was interesting and pretty well explored in the limited run this comic had. Ren is the villain of this comic book, kind of. He is the leader of the Knights of Ren and takes Ben Solo in on the action. He is charismatic but utterly ruthless, though while I think Ren is a character almost, the other Knights of Ren, not so much. It would be kind of nice to have known anything about the other members. Was there a good rapport with Ben? What's some stuff they did together? I don't know. Let's see. Luke failed his students and started a second purge of the Jedi after, for some reason, trying to kill his nephew. You know, the guy who just quit fighting Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi simply because he thought there was an off chance that Vader would take his offer and become a good guy.
I'll never turn to the dark side.
And he feared it.
That guy wanted to just kill his nephew. That's really neither here nor there. That's the movie's problem and not this book. This book's problem is trying to figure out how that fits in the wider Star Wars galaxy. But it is a big trigger point for Kylo attacking the temple and wiping out this new generation of Jedi. Though again, it kind of begs the question how he killed every single Jedi single-handedly. He didn't have an army of clone troopers like Anakin did. There wasn't much of a surprise there. Everybody sensed the darkness in him apparently, but whatever, that's what happened. This book has absolutely incredible covers. It is undeniably just exquisite on that end. But with that being said, I'm a bit mixed on some of the interiors. Some of it looks great and very adequate, and some of it looks a bit cracked, looks bad. This isn't really helped by the weird look they went for with child Kylo, who kind of looks like the squirrel from Ice Age. I think part of that is probably just Adam Driver seems like a hard person to translate into being a kid, but it was strange. Tonally, I think this story fits perfectly for an origin of the Ren and a fall to darkness for Ben Solo, though I think we definitely could have had more of the temple's fall, which I think would have shown more of why Ben felt inclined to do this in the first place. I also think Ben has the trigger to become a Darksider through Luke trying to kill him, but I think he kind of needed that deeper seated motivation, you know, like how Anakin had Padme, the forbidden love, and how he felt held back by the Jedi Council, how they wouldn't make him a master. Ben felt the pressure of lofty expectations and was almost killed by his uncle for some reason. Well, his uncle was suffering from PTSD, I guess, but I didn't feel this was quite enough to explain why he went dark. Perhaps more scenes with Snoke kind of trying to seduce him to the dark side would have went a long way, but it just feels quick, and this book kind of confirms the idea that Kylo Ren became a Darksider simply because that's what the story wanted him to do. Perhaps he could have tried fighting Luke, who kicked him out of the Order, and he went to the Ren in search of belonging. Or perhaps we see more about Snoke and how that friendship formed, rather than just kind of having him, at some point, having met the Darkside cultists. Why does he know Snoke? Overall, this book's fine, and I like that we're getting more of Kylo Ren with the Legacy of Vader comics. The idea of Adam Driver and Steven Soderbergh's Kylo Ren spin-off film also fascinates me. The movie was supposedly denied by Disney, but is gaining some grassroots traction in the fan base, something that I think could potentially see it coming to fruition as Star Wars reopens the sequel trilogy era following years of putting the era on ice as Disney reevaluated Star Wars and what to do with the IP in this era. I really liked Ren as a villain. I thought he worked. The other knights could have been given a bit more. I like that Snoke was in Ben's ear for a while, but I think what sparked a friendship is an important piece of missing lore from this origin comic. Palpatine and Anakin knew each other for a decade and a half before Anakin ever turned evil. We really don't learn anything new that rationalizes Luke's behavior in trying to kill Ben, which also could have been important. And while again, I think that's more The Last Jedi's problem than this comic's problem, I still think that is relevant lore that we all but missed out on. Kylo's origin is flimsy in the film, and this comic that sets out to expand that, I think, replaces some answers with many new questions and kind of fails to do exactly what it set out to do. I think this comic should have been twice as long and showed the origins of Ben and Snoke's friendship and what led Luke to do what he did. Then I think we could have truly had an interesting piece of expanded lore, but as it stands, I don't know. Okay, well, if you found this interesting, I have a lot more Star Wars stuff on my channel. That playlist will be linked on the end screen now.